Hello, and welcome to our show, Lead Me Home. I am Mary Beth Maestre, and once again, I have another guest for you today who has met God along the way without realizing it. You know, we always ask the question, where was God in your life? And the reply is usually, God wasn't in my life at that time. And my reply is, yes, God was in your life, in my life, in everyone's life, all of the time. It's up to us to turn towards God. We say this all the time, God is always turned towards us. It is us through sin who turns away from God. So our next guest will be able to explain some of that as we go through his story, telling us where he was and how he was able to turn back to God. We had his wife on one of our previous shows, so let me now introduce you to Jason Ocampo, who we had his wife Rachel on a couple of shows ago.
Right.
Rachel, Jason, thank you for being here today.
I'm glad to be here, Miss Maribeth. I'm a little nervous, sharing our life story is always something that,
Yes, definitely, especially putting it out there.
Right.
But we do it, we say, Jason, because we want our viewers to see how God has brought us back to, the title of the show, has led us back home. Mm-hmm. We, like I said, have gone all over the place, but He gathered us up and brought us back. So let's begin with your story. I always ask everyone to just take us back from the beginning, where you're born, parents, brothers, sisters, schools you went to, university, different things. And as we go along, we'll understand more of your story. So go ahead. Where were you born?
Okay, I was born in 1971 in Manila, Philippines. My parents, the Philippines is the stronghold of the Catholic Church in Asia. So, normally people would think that, everybody there has a strong Catholic belief. My parents, although you could call them good people, I guess, they missed that part. I don't remember them taking us to church. There's 4 of us, 3 boys and 1 girl, and the girl is the youngest. And I don't remember them taking us to church or or gathering us for a family prayer. Mm-hmm. No, unfortunately, that was the case. No.
But like you said, they were considered good people.
Right, in the sense that they're not cheating anybody, they're not slandering anybody or stuff like that.
I kind of try and run through some of the commandments. They weren't doing this. But not realizing they were doing.
Not realizing they're forgetting they forgot their responsibility, the main responsibility as parents.
As raising children, raising their children. All right, school. What school did you go to?
I went to this school called University of the East. As strange as it may seem, that was grade school. And Rachel asked me, it's called University of the East, and you went there for grade school. Yes, I did grade school and high school, as a matter of fact. I as we were talking about it, I don't even remember that it was a Catholic school, no. But we do have that beautiful chapel in the middle, and we have theology, religion classes.
Okay, so I think that qualifies it because you said, okay, you're going to be baptized, not baptized, but you're going to receive communion and confirmation there at that school.
Right there. Uh-huh. And as a matter of fact, even from grade school, I remember taking a couple of retreats in the campus.
Mm-hmm. Okay, you know what, Jason, it probably was, you just weren't into it, like I said at the beginning.
It wasn't in my head.
Not there at all. Simply because it wasn't in the head of your parents. So at home, you weren't hearing about it. Mm-hmm. Whereas the rest of us, some of us say who were baptized Catholics with Catholic parents, automatically in the home you were hearing about it. Right. But because you weren't, it wasn't part of your routine.
Right.
This was just something that the other kids were doing. So yes, you fell into place. I received my communion. I received my confirmation. Okay, high school. What's going to happen at high school? You graduate from high school, but do you have something happen at that time in high school?
Well, as I was, if I remember it correctly, as I was graduating from high school, I think my mother, around that time, she was diagnosed with cancer, cancer of the bone. She had, according to the doctor, she had an accident several years back. Their vehicle turned over, but she didn't realize that that messed her up. And according to the doctor, that was the cause. It was somewhere in the back, that part, but it was a painful experience for her.
Yes,
and us, of course, seeing her suffering.
Watching that. And how long did she go through that before she passed away?
She was bedridden, Miss Maribeth, for 8 months or more, as a matter of fact. It drained our resources. My dad. I remember, at the very last days of my mom. I mean, it was like he was borrowing money. Because we already used up all our savings. Right.
Now tell me about your father. You said his job took him abroad?
Right. He's what we call in the Philippines overseas contract workers. There were a lot of people back then. I'm sure up to this day, that they would rather go overseas to get a job because you earn U.S. dollars, and of course, it brings more to the table.
But he was gone quite a bit at the time.
Right. He was only he would be gone for a whole year and would only come home once a year, 2-3 weeks the most, and then back again.
Okay, so there you go. That's another reason you don't have much of a father around the house.
Right.
So mother had to become mother and father.
And father.
She was raising you. She was disciplining you. Everything. So here now she leaves you all, and so I think you mentioned that at that point you had to sort of step out. You couldn't go to university yet, huh?
Right. After I graduated from high school, to help out my father, I decided to stop for a couple of years. Just to help out with the expenses, because I know going to a university would cost a significant amount of money. So I decided to let me just stop for a couple of years and see what happens.
Okay, so then she passes on, and now you're ready to go on to university. Huh?
Right.
Okay, tell me a little bit about your university life. What university you went to?
My school, it's called the University of Santo Tomas. It's the St. Thomas Aquinas University. As a matter of fact, we are, as far as I know, we are the only pontifical university in Asia. Yeah, and it was a very beautiful university, a beautiful campus. I mean, I remember the building, one of the main building. It's like the St. Peter's Square, with all those statues of huge saints all over. It was a very pretty ground.
Okay, viewers, after Jason spoke to me about that, I went and researched it, and it's an amazing university. It's the oldest and largest Catholic university. I think when I last looked, 406 years old. So it's the whole thing about it. But Jason went to a university that most Catholic parents would die to have their children go to a Catholic university, a St. Thomas Aquinas University. So at that time, I mean, as lovely as that was, that didn't mean much to you at all, huh? It's just university.
No, it's just university. Yes, it was quite impressive, but I didn't realize, that how beautiful that school was until very recently.
Yes.
going back
you probably wish you could send your kids there now.
Right.
For a Catholic education. You also said the Pope came to your university.
Oh yes. I remember John Paul II. Seeing him, really close, maybe 12 feet. At that time, I was a very secular, worldly person, but upon seeing the Pope, I remember goosebumps. I remember something inside me got stirred up. I mean, I saw Pope Benedict up close too, but it wasn't compared to
when you saw John Paul.
When I saw John Paul II.
Okay, so there we go. So you saw him and something was stirred in you.
Right.
Did that stirring stay there for quite a while?
No, not at all, not at all. It only lasted maybe that day. And well, that was World Youth Day, and I remember going to one of the events in the World Youth Day with rum in my bag.
You and many other guys
right.
have your knapsack. You see all these kids with their knapsacks at World Youth Day.
Wonder
what's
Day.
in the bag.
Yeah, I just wanted to go there, hang out, drink, and look at girls.
Look at girls,
right,
yeah.
Right.
That you'd have been like around, 17, 18, 19, around that time? At that age?
I think a little bit more, maybe 19, 20, something like that.
And that's the thing to do. Drink rum and look at girls. So there you go, World Youth Day. But see, something stirred in him when you saw Pope John Paul II. Now, Saint John Paul.
Saint John Paul.
Saint John Paul II.
Right.
Okay, when you told me that, I thought of the parable of the seed falling on dry ground.
The sower, right.
Dry ground, because your ground was dry. That seed couldn't get in there no matter what.
It wasn't just dry, Miss Mary, but it was surrounded by thorns.
Yes.
And in scorching heat, so you could just imagine.
So nothing could come at you because your secular world you lived in, your friends, everybody.
Right.
That was the way of life that you were going on. Okay, that's great. I love that, the whole story about your university. But you shared with me something too about the mode of transportation in the Philippines. And tell me all about that.
Okay, our main mode of transportation in the Philippines is called jeepney.
And I hold up a picture for you all viewers. This is a jeepney.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's after the Second World War, the Americans left some used jeeps that they use in the field. Mm-hmm. So I mean, with couple that with Filipino ingenuity, what they did was they cut the back and they added passenger seats on the side. So it's like the seats are like inside the jeep, where like the seats are like these two long seats. So everybody's facing each other, and you have a railing to hold on to like that. You know, so. It's kind of cramped, but you know,
that's the only way.
That's what we use.
But when I looked at it, and Jason says, yes, he's been up top there.
I've been on top, I've been on the side, I've been on the back.
You've even hung on the back, huh?
Right,
you said. So that was the way, that's the way, still today, of course, huh?
Up to
everyone
today.
gets around. And jeepneys, their mode of transportation. Maybe Belize should get copy some of these.
I think this would do well here.
Yes. In fact, was this the one? No, I think there was another picture it showed me. I saw the picture of one picture of Mary.
Right.
On one of them. All right, so that's your mode of transportation. Now you're at university because you use this mode of transportation to get to university every day. So what subjects are you gonna study there?
Well, I joined that university studying hotel and restaurant management. It was a bachelor's degree. But prior to my mom dying, I really wanted to be a doctor. As a matter of fact, I wanted, after high school, I wanted to study nursing as a pre-med, and then go on to study medicine. No? But since I stopped for a couple of years, I started hanging out with friends, and we'd go to these jazz, at the lobbies of hotel where they play
lounges,
jazz, lounge music, jazz music, live jazz music, and I started to like the environment. So when it was time for university, I decided to take up hotel and restaurant management.
Okay, so you moved from the idea of starting off in doctoring nursing into restaurant management. Okay, and how do you do in school? How are you going along in school with this course?
That school really got in the way of my activities. I can tell you that,
school got in the way of his activities.
During university, I was very active. I've always been a fitness person. I was a varsity in football. At the same time, I was doing mountaineering, rock climbing. I was doing mixed martial arts, among other things.
Okay, this is
scuba diving as well.
This is Jason. We'll try to pull that up, but that's Jason mountaineering. So I told Jason when I looked at this picture, he said he wasn't close to God. Well, God was very close to him right here in this picture. So that's you in mountaineering. And then, of course, with some friends, scuba diving. All right, so he's about to either come in from a dive or fall into a dive going down there. And then again, you have another photo of where you said this was in a...
That's a crater of an active volcano. We camped up there.
Camped out at a crater of an active volcano. So yes, you can see with these sort of activities, there was no time to for school or for studying.
Yeah, the school was just getting in the
way. Why can't I get done?
Too many things to do, so little time.
Yes, right. yes. So how long are you going to take to accomplish this?
Well, that course, that bachelor's degree, it's for 4 years, but it took me 6 long years. Because I kept dropping off subject. Like I said, I was too busy doing all these things.
These other things. Yeah. And of course, remember now, you're going to do it because your mother's gone. Your father's away. So, like you said, you were what? The boss of the house? You were in charge?
I was in charge of the house because our oldest brother, he already moved out. So, my father was sending us money. And, you might be asking, how can I afford
these activities?
Well, I was really selfish at the time since I was the boss. I was taking care of my younger siblings. Whatever money that my dad sent us, I would use most of it for myself. So in a way, I stole from my siblings.
From your brother and sister.
Right.
Have you apologized to them since?
I haven't. I've been trying to make up for all of that. Whenever they would ask something, I would gladly give them nowadays.
Okay. So, but at this time, and then of course, your other extracurricular activity was eyeing the girls.
Right.
So,
growing up, like I said, my parents didn't take us to church. The only time I would go to church is with my buddies. And to look at girls, so we would just stay outside.
So you said you went to church, but you were standing outside.
Outside, and then we call it going to church.
Sure.
It's ridiculous, really, now that I'm thinking about it. Or we would go to church because we have new shoes or new clothes, stuff so like that. So.
You just to show off.
Right.
Just your new outfits. But what your girls? Tell me about your dating. You dated some girls and. You told me a little about breaking up with them.
Yes, I guess, Miss Maribeth, since we kind of grew up without parents, really, me and my siblings, we weren't that close, we're kind of scattered, separated or something, although we were living in one roof. So, I've always seek the companionship of the opposite sex, as far as I can remember, there was never a time that I was single,
without a girlfriend.
Right. But something about that I don't know what happened. I don't know if you call it an illness or a psychological problem. But after a while, I would break up with them, and at this, I remember specifically going to this restaurant, the same table,
the same restaurant,
the same table, and that's where I would break up with them. I kind of like, what do you call it? I got a kick out of that.
To get you got a high, a little high, and it's a sadistic quality. Watching someone else suffer, because I'm sure some of them would cry.
Yes.
Some of them might burst into tears.
Yes,
or whatever.
I remember the waiters. They would look at me smiling, and they know me, I know them, but it's
so
like they're saying,
they knew too what you were doing.
Right. So but then after that, going home, it's still emptiness. Nothing. I might have had that high for that moment, but going home, there's that emptiness again.
Still the emptiness, right. And that wouldn't last long, because before then, after that, there'd be another one, another girl.
Another girl,
the search.
Right. That reminds me, Miss Maribeth, of one of my favorite saints nowadays. Saint Augustine of Hippo. He said, God, you created us for you, so there is nothing that will satisfy us. except you.
And our hearts are restless.
Our hearts are restless until they rest in you.
So true.
Now I realize that.
That's what it was. Nice note to end on. So we'll stop here at this time. We'll take a break. And when we come back, we'll continue on Jason's story. We're back. So let's continue now on Jason's story as he continues. He's enjoying his extracurricular activities more so than in university, but he will finally graduate. And part of that extracurricular activity was dating, seeing the girls. That was also part of it too. In fact, see it as part of an addiction. But you said there were other things that came into this secular world, this secular life. You talked about porn.
Yes, pornography. I think this is something very important that every parent should know, because I remember porn entered my life when I was young. I don't even remember how young, but my parents, they have their group of friends, and they would watch that in the house. Well, they wouldn't show us, of course, but they would lock the doors, lock the windows. We know what they were doing. And, unknowingly, they opened that door to the evil one.
Yeah.
And that's something that we as parents should be very, very careful of, especially nowadays, the age of internet. We need to be very careful. I can't overemphasize that.
Because every child is inquisitive.
Right,
and what is daddy and mommy and all their friends in there, and they're laughing or whatever. And naturally, I'm sure you wanted to peep in, and I've got a chance.
We did all we could to climb here, climb there, make a hole, whatever. We did whatever it took, and unfortunately, that's how porn entered my life and my friends. And thank God, Miss Maribeth, by the grace of God, God was with me all throughout that journey.
He was.
I would, watch every once in a while, especially drinking with my buddies. But thank God, I was never really, addicted to it. And drugs as well. We never did drugs. Like I said, I've always been a fitness buff. I smoked, yes. I smoked and drank, but never drugs.
Your drug of choice was liquor. Was the rum in the back? Rum in the backpack.
Rum was my favorite. Rum and Coke.
You came to Belize. You came to the right place.
Exactly.
To continue that lifestyle. But viewers, let's talk seriously. Yes, Jason has a point there. Be aware. Our kids are inquisitive, so anything connected with porn in the house, and like we said, now it's not even magazines or videotapes. It's now all either on the computer or on the phones, on their cell phones or whatever it is. So be aware. Our kids know how to go into that too. They know how to find places that you yourselves don't know about. So be aware of your influence of bringing it into the home. Not that we should be doing it anyway. Any father, mother, please understand that is I think it's one of the number one addictions, higher than liquor and drugs. Even porn has become. So be aware of that, especially for those young little minds, hearts, and souls that you're raising. Okay, Jason, you're going to continue now. You're out of university. You've completed in 6 years.
6 years. I could have been a doctor, you see, with all the years I've wasted, but anyhow.
Oh, yes. No, God knew what He wanted. He needed you to get to Belize to come and feed us down here. All right, so you're going to go through some other jobs and what goes on?
After college, I just started getting one job after the next. I remember, I think my first job was a car salesman at a Nissan dealership. I was just looking for a job to finance my hobbies. Whatever gives a better pay, I would jump into it.
Sure.
So I was at a car dealership. Then I become a medical representative. I'm detailing medicines to doctors, they would buy it and give it to their patients. And then I got into I found this high-end gym that they were looking for a membership. It's called a membership sales and membership coordinator, something like that. But it was a high-end gym, and part of that, the job description is to get new members through outdoor activities and organizing fun runs. So this was a perfect job.
Right up your alley.
I was a fitness buff. I liked outdoor activities. You know, I liked meeting people. So here it was. There it was. You know, so I got the job. Thank God, and I really enjoyed that job. Right.
And at that job, you're going to meet someone, aren't you?
Right, that was how I came here. I met a Belizean lady there at that gym, and you know it wasn't. I couldn't say it was something that's really serious, you know. But when she left the Philippines, then we found out that she was pregnant. So
She called you.
Yes,
She called you in the Philippines.
When we were dating, it didn't really occur to me that it is something serious. We've talked about how about if I come here, but never really. I never thought of leaving my country. You know, my family is there, my friends are there, and you know, I didn't have a problem getting good jobs. So I didn't have any plan. But when that pregnancy came into the picture, I decided to come here.
Move to Belize.
Right.
Okay.
It was a very difficult decision to do.
To move up, to just leaving a brother and sister behind. That's the closest things to you there were your brother and sister, closest ones to you.
That's right. And that was 1999, Miss Maribeth. I remember going to the travel agencies looking for tickets. Nobody knew where Belize was.
Yes,
and Belize, they didn't know.
You probably didn't know where it was. I mean, you might have looked it up when she told you she came from Belize. But other than that...
Well, I've heard of Belize before because of scuba diving. Belize, it still is very popular in scuba diving. So, you know, that was the exciting part for me because, of course, I was very much into scuba diving at that time. You know.
Oh, so there's another little kick for why you came down here. Right. Yeah. Okay, what was your life like when you were with her, and what happened there at that time? Because it didn't work out, did it? It
didn't work out, unfortunately. I came here, and then, of course, I couldn't, just get a job. You know, I was basically a tourist here, renewing my visa every month. I think so. You know, and with my limited resources, of course, I was living with them, you know, with her family, and you know, that was it became the darkest moments of my life. Up to now, I think up to now I still have wounds from that encounter. You know, I just couldn't get. You know, imagine I've been the boss
over there.
Right, I could do whatever I want. I have total freedom, and suddenly I'm living with a family, and of course, I have to abide by
what they
Right. So in a way, you know, that took away a lot from me, and not to mention the fact that the relationship wasn't working out. It was very dark, Miss Maribeth. I turned into alcohol. I think. At least for a brief period in time, I became an alcoholic, and I even contemplated on doing suicide.
Wow!
You know, it was that bad.
Sure,
it was that bad.
You saw no way out.
No. It was just a very painful experience for me.
And you probably didn't even have enough money put together to get back home at that time yet.
Well, I had a year. The ticket, the return.
Okay.
Since we were trying to work out the relationship,
that didn't come.
It was, you know, the time has passed already.
Yes,
you know, and of course I didn't have a job here. I couldn't just get a job. I mean, I'm just a tourist here. So of course my whatever savings I had, it was slowly being depleted. So.
It's like your manhood was taken away from you at that time.
You could put it that way.
Because everything of who you were over there in your hometown was all gone. Sort of.
It was all gone. I didn't have nobody here, and back then I was a popular guy, you know. And you know,
you had your friends.
I was telling my wife and my kids one day, you know, when I was in grade school, you know, whenever I walked, somebody was on my left, somebody was on my right, walking with me.
Had your back covered, didn't they? All right. So that was a dark spell in your life.
Moment in my life.
Yeah. But God was still with you at that
Amen.
time, Jason, wasn't He? Okay, but then you do move on when you start getting jobs. And you're going to get a few jobs around town?
Right. Finally, I was able to get my work permit.
Right, uh-huh.
I was very
Made
glad.
a big difference, sure.
Right. I got a few jobs here. I think the first one was at the Jaguar Reef Lodge in Hopkins. What a beautiful place.
Out there. Uh-huh.
The lodge and Hopkins. You know, what a beautiful place. And then after that, I think I moved to the Biltmore. Well, then I got a job somewhere up north too, in San Pedro as food and beverage manager at this resort, Portofino.
Okay, so all nice places.
Right,
Jaguar Reef,
right,
Portofino, Biltmore. Oh
Right,
yes,
right.
all nice places.
And then I found this job here in Belize City, Harbor View Restaurant.
Uh-huh.
Right. You know, I became their executive chef.
Yes,
Right.
yes. I remember we went there a few nights.
Yeah, I think that's where I met them a lot. Started meeting a lot of people.
People, yes. Uh-huh.
It was such a beautiful place,
In
and I
fact,
was
that's probably
enjoying.
where I did meet you for the first time.
I think
when,
so.
when you came out. Uh-huh. Okay.
And it was, being the executive chef. You know, well, of course, as soon as I got my work permit, I started, practicing whatever I studied for, hotel and restaurant management. It's all coming back to me now. And that 4-year bachelor's course, one whole semester of that was dedicated to cooking.
Cooking.
Right. So it was all coming back to me now, and I was really enjoying that time at Harbor View.
Okay. Let me just here's a picture of Jason as that executive chef. I can't tell what's on the picture.
That's a live spiny lobster.
Spiny lobster.
Right.
Okay. So there we go, and here we go. Here is one of his dishes. Look at that. Mouth-watering. Mouth-watering. So Jason, yes, you're into it now. So you've found your niche, you're moving around, you're at Harbor View. And besides meeting many people there, you're going to meet someone, a special person at that time.
Right. Unbeknownst to me, that's where I'm going to meet my future wife. Right. So after a while, I met Rachel there. I think it was a commercial shoot for Harbor View, and I remember when I saw Rachel, I remember asking Michelle, the owner, please put me in there.
Oh, okay.
Please put me in
shoot.
something like that. So that's where I met Rachel.
Okay.
Right.
So that starts the relationship going.
Right.
Okay.
So we started dating. Well, not immediately, I had to woo her, of course.
Of course.
So when we started dating, and after 6 months, I proposed. Right.
Okay, so
I thought it was time.
That was quick, 6 months.
6 months.
But I think after everything you'd been through,
I just wanted to settle down,
and
I thought I found the right person. It was just.
Now, how did that work? Because Rachel comes, she comes from a very Catholic family. So how is Rachel going to work this out with you? You who are not practicing a faith at all.
Actually, she was probably the main reason why I turned around, along with her family, of course. I think it was her who she asked me if we could go to this mass at Divine Mercy Church. Where is that? Divine Mercy Church. So anyhow, they're having this mass that they have a new priest, a new pastor, and that was the first like introduction mass for the pastor. It was Father James Blunt. Father Jim. Right.
He'd just come in. So I think there was a changeover. And
I think so.
Father
from Father Sebastian
to him and Father Paul.
Father Paul Grala.
And you said one of the first masses. How were you affected?
Okay, I remember vividly Father Jim. The entrance hymn and the entrance mass. As soon as I saw Father Jim, something clicked too. It was very reminiscent of that time I saw John Paul II. I saw a holy man walking
up that. And of course, so you just experienced that coming in. Of course, after he said that mass, I'm sure that feeling even just grew even more. Because if you see Father Jim, just, I don't want to use the word say or do a Mass. When you see Father Jim in a Mass, his whole person is there. He's just sort of elevated at the raising of the host. It's just, he knows the saints and angels are surrounding him. That's all part of that.
Right.
So basically, that's going to be a turning point in your life. That's when that's going to come.
You see how God was really with me, and after that, Miss Maribeth, of course, it wasn't immediate turnaround.
Sure.
I tried to weasel my way out of some situations. But since I proposed to Rachel, so we started doing marriage preparation. Okay. Now this was very.
We'll have to stop there, Jason. When we come back, we'll go back into that part of it. Okay, viewers. There you go. Jason has his turning point now. Before he had a pivotal point when he moved to Belize. But now his turning point is coming into the church. A church he'd been avoiding or just wasn't even aware existed. To go to church was to stand outside of church to look at the girls. Well, now Jason is in the church. And he has his lovely girl beside him. But this time he's looking at God. He's focusing on God. And Father Jim is there to help you along. We'll continue on Jason's story as soon as we come back. We're back, viewers, and we'll continue now on Jason's story as he's getting deeper and deeper into this faith, this Catholic faith that he had heard of, was not practicing, but now through his lovely bride-to-be, he's getting into the church deeper and deeper, and Father Jim Blunt is helping him to come to an acceptance and a knowledge of what this faith is. So Jason, you're there with, you and Rachel have become good friends with Father Blunt at this time?
The marriage preparation, no?
He's helping you with that?
He did help a lot, and this was all new to me, Miss Maribeth.
Yes, I can imagine.
I didn't even realize that you need to do marriage preparation. But anyhow, with all these new things, going back to the darkest times in my life, the darkest moments in my life, now that I'm thinking about it, I think God allowed for my pride to be crushed, because He wanted me to be ready for all of this.
Yes.
Because it takes a lot of humility to admit, to accept all these things. You know how men are these days. Well, I'm not going there. That's not manly or
for the women. Let's leave it to the women.
Right. That's for the women. Like what most people say. Religion is for sissies or something like that. But with all these new things, yes, I needed a lot of humility. And with Father Jim guiding us, everybody knows how humble this man is. Being around Father Jim is such a blessing that it's a life-changing experience to be around him for a period of time.
Yes. You were blessed now that because you mentioned that he comes and goes every so often, but you can't. He's like a celebrity. You can't even get to see him these days.
Nowadays, you can't.
You can't get to see him.
It's very difficult.
So you don't
to
realize
catch him.
how blessed you were
Right.
to have him in your life at the beginning. Because you said you all hung out. I love that. You hung out at your house.
Yes, Father Jim would come for meals, and well, that was after we got married, no. But even before, even while we were doing the marriage prep, he and Father Paul were preparing us. They asked us to go to this natural family planning with Margaret Robinson.
Okay. Yes.
From Benke, a beautiful family, beautiful people.
Yes.
Another blessing in our lives, meeting this family.
Because that family has produced John Robinson,
Father
John Robinson, who's in charge of the SOLT, the Society of Our Lady of the Blessed Trinity, the order.
The order.
In Benki, yeah?
Right. He's in charge of the order here in Belize.
Here at this time. Yeah. All right. Tell me a little bit of natural family planning from a man's perspective. Now, when Rachel was on, of course, Rachel is big in it because she has taught it. She learned it from Margaret, and she teaches it as well. And she gave us a little bit of a rundown. But curious, from a man's perspective, tell me a little something about how you took to natural family planning.
Well, with natural family planning, the beauty about it is you don't need to buy any kind of thing. Contraceptive. You know, contraceptive. Let's go briefly into that because, you know, looking back when we were doing our vows, when the priest asked, "Will you accept children lovingly from God?" I said, "I do." You know, I wouldn't want
and you
to
were
turn
sincere.
around. Maybe I wasn't sincere at that time, but now, Miss Maribeth, you know, I realize the importance of natural family planning because we said I do. We were never gonna do any contraceptives. We never did ever since we got married. I mean, thank God for that grace because it's a grace that we received. You know, we couldn't have done it without Him. And you know, another thing with natural family planning is, you know, it's all natural. It's safe. It's safe for my wife, you know. And as a matter of fact, I think with Diego, our first child, you know how doctors would tell you when the due date will be. I mean, 2 doctors gave a due date, I think, and according to natural family planning, Rachel gave a due date too. And guess what? Rachel's due date was the correct one.
Was the correct one, right, compared to the doctors. There you go. So you come to learn the beauty of your wife's body, huh? Her cycles, her everything.
Right. Although I'm not, I'm the first one to admit that, you know, I didn't really take it seriously. Sure. But it needs a lot of communication, you know. And I guess that you could throw that in as another pro because you and your wife communicate, right?
Which leads to intimacy. Right, every wife loves to have a husband that's communicating with her. So then that leads to a closer intimacy. Especially if she knows her husband is interested in knowing all about her body and her cycle and how these things work.
Right.
So that helps her. She just feels so good about that her husband is interested in those things. But like you say, it's grace. You're going to need God and the church, which you're into now, and you have prayer with you, and you have a Father Blunt encouraging you all. So that helps a lot. But it comes with its difficulties also, doesn't it, Jason?
Yes, you need a lot of self-control, which is another pro, I guess. You know, being natural, you can't just if you have a serious reason to avoid a pregnancy, you really need to exercise that self-control. Otherwise, it will not work. Sure. It happened to us a couple of times wherein I didn't follow the rules, you know, and it didn't work out.
Is that when Marabella and Isaiah and Pascal?
Oh, of course. I didn't follow the rule. It's my fault.
Your fault.
But
that's funny.
Another blessings from God, you know.
Oh, sure.
I mean, having 4 children, a lot of times I pull my hair, you know. But you know, really, I cannot live without each and every one of them.
And each one, you should see these 4 kids at Mass. They are beauties, each one in their own way. In fact, when Diego first came along, I think when every first came to Divine Mercy, it automatically became everyone's child. You know, when Diego was kind of in the beginning, everybody's baby. It's like when John and Gina had their first John Paul. That baby was for everyone. You just got the feeling. But then there's Mirabella, who comes next, a gorgeous little daughter you have there, and Isaiah and Pascual. Oh my goodness, those two. Between those two, they keep the church entertained at times.
You know, Father Jim married us, and Father Jim baptized 3 of our children. Well, I think with Diego, he concelebrated with Bishop Martin because Bishop Martin is a very good family friend. So naturally, we asked him. And as a matter of fact, Father Jim is Isaiah's godfather.
Oh, really?
Right.
Oh, nice. Wow. watch out, Isaiah. If you have Father Jim praying for you.
Mirabella's godparents are Father George
When Father
and
George
Margaret.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Lord. They have, listen, we're looking at future priests and religious
I hope
coming
so.
along.
We hope so. And
along the line.
but anyhow, with this marriage preparation, it prepared us for a lot of things, no? And we learned a lot of things. And I mentioned to you before that it was actually the very first time I went to confession. I did go to confession back in the Philippines, but part of part of the school, right? You have to do it. But this time, we're getting married. I haven't gone to confession in a very, very long time. So I decided to go, to follow it as part of the marriage preparation. Sure. So I went to confession finally after so many years.
Right?
So naturally, it was my very first confession. It was Father Paul Grala. I mean, we love Father Paul. He was very instrumental too. But well, at that time, I think he took some medication. So anyhow, and naturally, my first confession, it was very long, unusually long. He fell asleep. He fell asleep. So he didn't just fall asleep. He started kind of like snoring and started making sounds. And he said, "This is Father Paul. I'm not here. Please leave a message."
Oh my goodness!
And I'm just
so
like
you were
there,
leaving your message.
Yeah, I was right there. I mean, is this really happening? I after that. He woke up, of course, and gave me the absolution. But then I had to ask Father Jim, is that valid? Of course, I guess it's a normal concern.
Of course,
Of course, it's a valid confession.
It is.
It's with a priest. And my Rachel told me, you see how God has a sense of humor. A lot of us are afraid to go to confession because we think we're too far off. But guess what? See, after all that year, that was God's reception. He made fun of me.
Yes.
That's all you have. And that reminds me of Sister Faustina's diary. One of Sister Faustina's diary. Jesus told her that there's no limit to my mercy. As a matter of fact, the greater the sinner you are, the more right you have to my mercy.
Can you imagine that? The greater the sinner, the more right you have to my mercy.
Right, so we can never be too far off. It's never too late. We can always turn around. And that's the beauty of our religion. That's the beauty of our God.
Oh, I love that. Listen to him. It's so true. We agree with that. In fact, I remember there's a Father Larry Richards who comes on EWTN every so often. And he said he had an experience with someone who was afraid to confess. He says, go ahead. Pretend I'm not here. Just speak to God. I'm just over here listening. So exactly that. You were speaking to God. Father Paul was over there sleeping. But it's all right. It didn't matter. You were speaking to Jesus. You were speaking your heart out. And it counted as a perfectly good confession. All right. So you said you had a connection with Father Jim. Definitely that you hung out. So I think Father Jim probably became that father figure to you, you think? The father you didn't have?
You could say that, Miss Maribeth, because, when you're with Father Jim, he gives you all the attention.
Yes.
It's like you're the only one.
Isn't that something?
I guess I didn't get that from my parents, that spiritual guidance that Father Jim was doing. So I guess, yes, he sort of became my father figure. And I guess Rachel's, our marriage.
Yes, as both of you.
Right.
But you tell the story, he blesses everything, huh? Grace before everything.
Grace before meals. So one time we were eating ice cream at BTL Park, he even taught us to say grace, even if you're just eating ice cream.
Ice cream cone.
Right.
Yeah, go ahead and do your blessings. Great, that was that. So that, now, again, like you said, first year of marriage wasn't easy.
No.
I mean, that's, and I don't, that's probably for everyone, Jason, that adjusting period. And not only that, remember, you all were two different cultures. Here is a Filipino marrying a Belizean.
Right.
So that was a hard. But you also say that's where the marriage preparation and God in that marriage helps you pull through.
Exactly. I couldn't imagine God out of the equation with that in that first year, second year, because most people would call it honeymoon stage, right?
Yeah.
I don't think it was honeymoon stage. It was a fighting stage. You know, it was getting used to each other, getting used to each other's ways. You know, and you know, without God, in our marriage preparation, I don't think we would have made it this far. To be quite honest.
And he's certainly been there with you. And you know, now that I think back, when I had Rachel on, she admitted the same thing. First year of marriage was really hard. Huh? Then, of course, the kids come along. But where are you with a job now at this time?
Well, while I was working at Harborview, we saw, Rachel and I were already dating. We saw this ad on the paper, the airport authority, the Belize Airport Concession Company, they advertised for a tender to be submitted for the management and operation of this restaurant. And we made a proposal and we submitted it. And by the grace of God, our proposal was accepted, and we've been there ever since. You know, as a matter of fact, we opened that restaurant 1 month after we got married.
Oh, really? Right after?
So 13 years now. 13 years we're married, 13 years we've been there.
Okay, so everything's going fine, huh? You have your wife, these wonderful children coming along, and you have this new job. You said it was something like opening a clean page.
Can you imagine that? That's how God blessed me and my wife. You know, especially me. After all these times, after all that I've done, it's like He gave me a nice clean page to start with. Here you go. You know, you can start over again.
Wonderful. Okay, we're starting to wind down, Jason. But I asked Jason for his Bible verse. I usually do this with everyone. And Jason gave me his verse as being coming from Joshua 24:15, verse 15. As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. And that's exactly what you have been doing, Jason, you and serving the Lord. So tell me just a quick rundown of the things you and your family do today as good Catholics.
Okay, we try to instill the importance of prayer to our children. That's like I said earlier, I didn't get that from my parents. And with Rachel, actually Rachel is the more strict one. You know, I'm the more lax one. But with prayer, we start our day with family prayer. Everybody, you know, it doesn't matter if you haven't brushed your teeth. Let's all get together and start praying. You know, and since we have our own business, a lot of times I'm at home at 3 o'clock. In the afternoon, we do the Stations of the Cross with the children as well. And at night, another family prayer. And we start that by reading the scriptures, the daily reading. So we read the scriptures on a daily basis.
So they're following the daily readings that we would hear in Mass.
Right. We do that every single day. And especially on Saturdays, we also do what we learned from the souls, the liturgy prep. You know, we do the reading, we do the reading for Sunday, and we contemplate on it, and we watch videos of liturgy prep. So it's kind of like to prepare you for the Sunday Mass. You know what's gonna be happening, what's the reading for today, you know, how would you take it, and stuff like that. So
that's wonderful, Jason. Viewers, you hear this? I wish all of us were doing this in our house, not only for our kids, for ourselves first of all. Well, many of us do, at least prepare with readings, but even with somebody else to sit and contemplate and talk about it, so your kids can chime in of what they
say what touched them. They say what touched them. What verse they remembered. What verse touched them. And it's good. It's good for me too, especially because I'm too lazy to pray. I'll be the very first one to admit that. I like when I'm driving because it's like my little monastic cell. I can't go. No, I have nowhere to go, and I have nobody with me. So you know, I'm just like right there when I'm driving. You know, this is your time to pray.
I love this. After Jason told me that, the next time I got in the car and I'm usually praying my rosary, I said, I'm going to follow Jason's word. I'm here in my monastic cell, all alone, where no one can get to me. and doing my prayer time. I love that. So yes, so then along with that, Joe, you have a radio show, TV show. What else?
Right. I have this radio show that we've been doing for a couple of years now. I'm doing it with Julian Castillo. It's called The Living Word, where we do the reading for Monday and Wednesday and Friday, and we give our meditation. We do a little discussion.
After that.
And also we have another show with Julian Castillo, but this time with Mr. Meliton Awil and Paul Rodriguez. It's called The Catholic Man's Journey. The Catholic
Man's Journey. And now just to give you quickly, viewers, that comes on TV now, and that comes on, Catholic Man's Journey comes on Monday at 8 p.m., Tuesday at 6:30 a.m. and 10 a.m., and on Sunday evenings at 4 p.m. And also that radio show, that comes on 8:30 a.m. on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. So Jason, and this is doing all of that before going up to work at the airport restaurant. Okay. But so, and not only, I've got to let you know this, you saw that the lobster, but I've experienced quite a bit of Jason's meals. So this is, he not only does it for a living, he does it also just from the generosity of his heart for the fundraisers, or we have parish events. Jason's food will be there. We get to experience this, Jason. Thank you so much for all of the times you have contributed food for so many occasions, like he did on Saturday. We had some young youth here, and before they left for on their flight out, you had them at the airport.
At the airport,
for breakfast. So he doesn't stop. It's continuous. All right, and I shouldn't even say this part, but I'll go ahead and say it anyway. I said, well, Jason, how about when you take Rachel out? He says, well, between the two of them, he cooks better than most of the restaurants, so it's might as well. And to let you know...
It's my excuse.
Yes. I told you got to work on that one. But not only that, Jason cooks at home as well.
I cook every day. I cook for my family. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
So there you go. You can see why he doesn't want to go to other restaurants, because he's at home cooking for his family. Jason, this has been wonderful. I'd really like to thank you for being here with us, sharing this story. And you can see, viewers, that the 360-degree turn that Jason made from no faith at all over there in Manila to God knowing why he sent you here to Belize, to what it's going to come to.
God is good.
He is good. So I'll end off the way I started. Jason thought he was away from God. He wasn't. He was away from God. God was not far from Jason. He was touching you all along. That path you made, leaving there, coming here. God was always with Jason. All right, so thanks again. Thanks again, Jason.
Thank you.
Thank you, viewers. Thank you to our cameraman here with us today, Mark. And like I always tell you, I'd like to thank Tom Peterson, who allows us to show his evangelicals. We put one on our shows during the commercial breaks. We put on an evangelical. And if you want to see more about that is from the show CatholicComeHome.org. That's the website, and the show is Catholic Come Home. That you can find that on EWTN. So we always close with a little prayer, and I think we'll appropriately take our St. Michael the Archangel prayer, because I think he was instrumental. The warrior spirit in you as a man.
He used his sword a lot with me.
Yeah, okay.
Protecting me.
He used his sword to protect you, and now you are using that sword to protect your family. All right, shall we do that together? Okay. Saint Michael the Archangel, defend us in battle. Be our protection against the wickedness and snares of the devil. May God rebuke him, we humbly pray. And do thou, O Prince of the heavenly host, by the power of God, cast into hell Satan and all the evil spirits who prowl about the world, seeking the ruin of souls. Amen. And this prayer was Pope Leo the 13th came up with this prayer. Thank you once again, viewers. Mary Beth Maestre here. God bless you.